This year's last minute gift holiday pack has got a lot of cool stuff packed inside of it. And we'll start things off with our unfiltered IPA. This recipe is a little closer to like a New England / like hazy IPA, where we're using a lot of late addition hops during the boil. Now what that does for us is that basically sets up a baseline that doesn't have a great deal of bitterness to begin with. And so there's just a little bit of Citra hops added to the last 5 minutes of the boil. We'll let that kind of balance out some of the sweetness from the malts, but then from there, we're actually using a lot more really juicy citrus forward, tropical fruity hops during an early addition dry hop, and then we're finishing everything up with a classic dry hop too. So if anything, this is almost like a New England IPA / hazy IPA meets some of the old school West Coast style IPAs. I think this beer is going to be awesome with a lot of the holiday fare that you'll find around the tables during holiday parties, such as the trifecta of popcorn, or of course just some classic sharp cheddar cheese, or maybe even that weird log of cheese that has the nuts stuck on the outside of it. This will do a great job of resetting the palate and making you want that next bite of food, and will also help numb the pain of any awful gifts that don't fit. And then next we've got our Gingerbread Porter. Then next we've got our Gingerbread Porter. Now Gingerbread Porter is a big, bold beer that clocks in at 10% ABV, but let me tell you at the same time, even though it's very full in flavor, the ABV in this one's very well masked. I don't really get much of that sort of alcohol burn or anything else that can come from some beers once they start getting into the double digits. Now this beer's got a lot going on with it. It's got some of your classic ginger, cinnamon, and vanilla, so it's kind of got that sort of pumpkin pie seasoning thing going on with it. But then we took it one step further by actually taking some medium toasted oak chips, soaking them in bourbon, and then placing those oak chips into the actual beer to let them infuse. So it's got this really awesome sort of coconut quality that comes from the nice toasted woods and the sweet little caramely backbone from the bourbon. This one also pretty much has almost every single specialty malt that we have in-house. I get a lot of chocolate from the roasted chocolate malts, and then I also get a really awesome bit of spiciness from the rye that was used during the brewing process too. This beer is going to be awesome to go with almost any dessert. You can just have it with one of those classic royal iced butter cookies that always end up around, or maybe even some candied almonds or some of the other things like that. This is a really awesome beer. You definitely want to check it out. Next, we've got our Cranberry Tangerine Goza. Now this is brewed in your classic Goza style, where we've elevated the salt content a little bit in this beer. And this actually, that little elevated salt content is going to come back to help us out. Now we're using cranberry and tangerine. I know, who would have ever guessed with this title? And the cranberry and tangerine end up bringing a really nice tartness to the party. In fact, once the two come together, I get a little bit more of like a grapefruit characteristic. And I love a little bit of salt on my grapefruit. So the flavors in all these work really well together. Now, as far as food pairing goes, I think that this is kind of a sneaky, sort of unassuming culprit when it comes to food pairings, because you could use this to both help out with savory foods, such as cheeses or any kind of creamy sort of foods, or as well, I think it's actually going to go really well with your desserts as well. So chocolates, butter cookies, anything with a pie crust is going to do really well with this beer as well. Now we add the tangerine and cranberry very late into the brewing process. Therefore, we actually want a lot of the sugar that comes along with this to stay as a residual sugar. We don't need any of the sugars in this to ferment out. So it really balances out well with the salt characteristic in this beer. Really awesome beer, you've got to try it.